All right, joined here on Zoom with Jesse Love. Jesse, looking forward to the Martinsville weekend, I bet.
Yeah, definitely. I was talking about it earlier today. It's a place that I have struggled at in the past, and it's not really in my wheelhouse per se. Like drivers talk about it all the time, right? For Denny Hamlin, these Martinsvilles and the Richmonds and stuff like that, Bristol's, it's right up their alley, right? For different race car drivers, we have different cups of tea that we like to drink out of, and for me, right, the flat tracks that don't have a lot of grip and don't have banking and aren't very fast are kind of not in my wheelhouse, right? So I've been working really hard on kind of overcoming that immature mindset and kind of going into it thinking having a goal, and that goal for me is to kind of overcome some of that preconceived notion I've always had about Martinsville and go into it with a better mindset. And if I could, conquer that, it would feel really good because I have put a lot of work into this racetrack over the last 2 years.
Of course, Jesse drives the number two car over at Richard Childress Racing. He's already got one win under his belt this year in the Xfinity race at Daytona. Of course, you can see all the Xfinity action on the CW. Jesse, to start off the season like that, what did that mean to you?
It was huge because we just talked about wheelhouses and what our favorite tracks are, and I've always loved going to Daytona, but I was always my teammates bridesmaid whenever I went there, and I think my best Daytona finish up until that point in anything was like probably outside of top 10. It was not good, but I go to Talladega and I haul the mail, and I've won multiple races there. So I felt like that was a good moment for me because I felt like I conquered something and got better at something and put work into it and watched it, just put a lot of effort into it, right? And when you go into a race and you expect to win and you win, it feels good, right? But when you go into a race that you put a lot of work into and you've struggled at in the past, and maybe your expectation is not high, but you go into it and win it, it's a way higher level of elation and happiness and joy and all that stuff. And it's the first race of the year. I mean, you really can't start better than that. And I've always wanted to win at that racetrack. I got to watch people I grew up racing with, like Noah Gragson, win there when I was, 16 or 15 years old, racing a super late across the street. And I got to go there and watch races with my dad, and always thought I wanted to have the moment that guys had when they got out of the car and, got to, soak it in on the front stretch after the win celebration was over. And to finally have that moment for myself was really cool. More importantly, have that moment with my family and my dad on the front stretch was even better.
When you win a race like that, as early as you are in your career, both last year at Talladega, this year at Daytona, does it help get over a certain hump where you can start winning more races? I mean, do you think back to races you've won earlier in ARCA and the other series where that was it? That's where I really gain a bunch of confidence.
Um, yes and no. I definitely am a momentum person, right? I think I try to ride the wave, and when I get hot, I try to get really hot. And I think it's just maybe that's a fault, maybe it's not. To the contrary, that I try to not, ride the wave down very hard. I feel like I got great advice when I was younger, which was, don't let your highs get too high and don't let your lows get too low. I feel like what I found the most success in is I do let my highs get pretty high, but I try not to get my lows too low. So when things aren't going well, I try to be an optimist about it. We're not in that spot right now because have been rolling really well for the two car, but I feel like overall it's been a great start to the year, and we just need to keep putting ourselves in position to win. Obviously, me and my teammate are running up front, competing for wins each and every week on the podium and really leading laps and getting stage wins and stage points. Well, although I need to get some stage wins for some playoff points, but all in all, I feel like we're riding a good wave of momentum right now.
You're sitting third in points. Is it too soon to start thinking about a championship run? What do you need to do just to keep your wave of momentum going and be able to think about that?
Yeah, I probably got to look at the points again. But I feel like, their top 4 or 5 guys are probably going to be the 4 to 5 guys that you're going to be racing against for a regular season title. And, the 7 car is, let's talk about, riding the wave. He's definitely riding the wave right now. He's could have 3 wins in a row and he has 2 right now. So we got a little catching up to do to get to where he's at. But I think we're pushing really hard. We're trying to find some big chunks that we can get or just some fine details that we can all put together to get to that point. So, um, the best way to go to Phoenix and race for a championship is to win the regular season title. And I think that, we're right in the hunt for that right now. The seven seems to have weekends where he kind of takes himself out of contention and has those big, low finishes and low points. So he hasn't had any of those yet. And if he doesn't have any, it's going to be really tough, and we're going to have to step up our game a little bit. But I think that we can be really consistent and hopefully, rack up a lot of stage points until we get to the round of 8, and hopefully we can execute in that round and go to Phoenix with a chance, because that was a tough one, a tough pill to swallow last year. We were racing for a championship and we were one lap away from winning a championship until that overtime restart where the seventh fenced us. So, I think that it's gonna be tough. You're racing against really good guys. Justin Allgaier is one of the best guys on any given weekend, and is so talented. But more importantly, I feel like the computer he's got in his brain right now, he's able to execute weekends really well. So I'm trying to learn from him a little bit, and he's actually a really good steward of the sport, in the sense that a young guy like me that's competing against him, he finds it in his heart to help me out, actually, and help me prepare for some of these events and races. And same thing with Austin Hill. And obviously you got, Sam Mayer, who's super fast right now, and he's in a good car with a good team. And that's a driver that can, get hot and ride the wave too.
So the best thing you can do is keep riding the wave, run into Martinsville this weekend and pick yourself up a grandfather clock. If you can do that, where does a grandfather clock go, or do you even let yourself think about those trophies ahead of time?
Yeah, it's maybe I'm not a superstitious person at all, but for some reason I have this one corner in my house where I kind of try to put like plants or mirrors or paintings or something in each corner of my house just to fill it up, but and make it look presentable. But there's just one corner of my house in the dining room that has no decoration, and I've kept it that way as long as I'm racing in the NASCAR top 3 series, and I have a chance to win a grandfather clock twice a year. And I'd like to, fill that up one day, and that's, sitting there for that's sitting there open for a reason if that day ever comes.
Well, Jesse Love, thanks for joining us here on the Racing Report. I appreciate all your time, and best of luck this weekend at Martinsville and for the rest of the season.
Sweet. Thanks, guys.